Florida Symphony went out of business. It was difficult for a lot of people. It was difficult for the concert goers, certainly the musicians. I was chairman of the orchestra committee, French horn player in the Florida Symphony, and we were just exhausted when the orchestra went out of business. It was a very difficult time, and at the time I never imagined that we would start a new orchestra so soon. And the reason we did that, the reason we tried to build something back quickly, there were a lot of fine musicians in the area that had lost their jobs. We wanted to keep them in the area. And of course, we wanted to go back to the supporters of the Florida Symphony and say, look, you know, we're going to try to do something new here, something that works for our community. So we did exactly that, but what we found out was people who had contributed a lot of money to the Florida Symphony were not ready to contribute to another orchestra. They were concerned about how it would be managed, and we learned that very quickly, and it was a very difficult learning process. We didn't start from scratch from the sense that there was a core group of musicians in town, but what the challenge was is, you know, they had other options. They had family they had to feed. You know, they had to do everything that they could. So going to them and saying, hey, look, donate your time to us and we'll create this orchestra again, you know, it really wasn't going to fly. We had to find funding to put this together. And, you know, the artistic integrity of the organization was first and foremost in our mind. And so that was another big challenge. We had to find the funds to put together a concert series that would keep these musicians involved. And I think, you know, looking back on it, I think that worked pretty well. The story that I think dates back the furthest in our organization that kind of I chuckle about every now and then had to do with Mark Fisher, who's now general manager and principal horn of the orchestra. And when we were first starting the orchestra, we were doing everything we could to get support. I mean, everything we could. And we were fortunate enough to be asked by the city of Kissimmee to do a concert at a local park in Kissimmee. And the concert was really well attended. It was really great for the organization to do it. The problem is we didn't have a lot of money to produce this concert. So I conducted the concert. Mark played French horn on the concert. But we were also stage crew. And, you know, we had to get out hours before the event. We had to set up the entire orchestra. The orchestra performed. We had to tear down the orchestra, put everything back on the truck, and drive all the way back to Orlando. We unloaded the truck. Mark and I were exhausted, and we sat down on the kind of the lift on the truck, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And Mark looks at me and he says, "I hope we don't ever talk about this as the good old days." When I think about the accomplishment, I think how lucky I am that I even got to do it, and it was really by default. The orchestra needed somebody to conduct for a concert. I had had conducting classes in college, had always had an interest in it, and I had my opportunity to do it. So I'd really have to say my proudest accomplishment was the first time I did it for the Orlando Philharmonic, because, as I said, these musicians were fabulous, and all I had to do was get up there and be concerned about myself, and they took care of the rest.